At 44 years old, I left the business that I'd founded 13 years earlier. Friends and people who knew me kept asking me the same question. So what are you gonna do next? They made an assumption that I wasn't finished with my career in recruitment, and I didn't know if I was or not. But my answer was nothing. And nothing work related was exactly what I did for 4 years. I told myself it was a career break, not retirement. And as I approached 50, a milestone age for anybody, I started to ask myself the same question. So the question was, what on earth can I do now? Resume my career? Another business maybe? Another challenge? Another opportunity? I thought that was the question I was supposed to answer. What next? Looking back, I think it was the wrong question, because I ended up spending the next 10 years trying things and quite honestly failing. In reality, what I was really doing was trying to find a life that suited the person that I had now become, and that's a very different thing than pursuing a career. In this video, I want to talk about why I've avoided pursuing a career after 50, and I'm going to share with you the lessons that I've learned on that journey. I spent my 50s chasing a life I'd outgrown at 44. Now that's a strange thing to say, especially because from the outside, my life looked fine. I'd sold my business, I'd made a decent pot of money, I had freedom, I had options. At that age, I had plenty of time, but something kept happening. Every few years, I'd try something new, a new project, a new opportunity, a new direction, and I'd always think the same thing. This is it. This is the next chapter. This is what I'm supposed to be doing now. And for a while, I'd get excited and I'd pile in, and the same thing would happen. The excitement would fade, the reality arrived, and I would quit. And I'd find myself asking, why am I doing this again? I don't think I was chasing success. I'd already had that. I was chasing something that I would be recognised for. Just me, not as a partner in something with others. And that's why I say now that I spent 10 years chasing a life I'd already outgrown. I think a lot of people do something similar. They chase recognition, one more promotion, more responsibility, one more year, another project, more responsibility, one more attempt to prove something to who? That thing no longer needs proving to anyone. You say to yourself, oh, after this, things are going to slow down. After this, I'll finally do what I want to do. I'll have more time, I'll have more freedom, there'll be a lot more choices. And then something happens, the years pass by and the goalposts just keep moving. And before you know it, you're still chasing a life that stopped fitting you a long time ago. I thought I was looking for purpose. I wasn't. This took me years to understand. I actively sought out the next mission, the next chapter, the next reason to get out of bed. But looking back, I don't think that's what I was doing at all. I was locked into a career identity that had finished at 44. The business owner, the leader, the person with responsibilities, the person who was needed, the person who had a clear answer when people asked, so, what do you do? And I think a lot of people go through this. They retire or they leave a career, or maybe they have children that then leave home, their life changes, and instead of asking, who am I now? They keep asking, how do I get back to who I used to be? But those are very different questions. I see it all the time. People who could step away, people who've clearly had enough, people who secretly want something different, they just keep going. And it's not because they need to, it's because they don't know who they'd be without it. The job becomes part of their identity. The business becomes part of their identity. That important title becomes part of their identity. And the thought of letting go feels like losing a part of themselves. Now, I understand that because that's exactly how I felt too. But here's the reality. Purpose looks forward, identity looks backwards. One creates something new, the other tries to recreate something old. And I think I spent years confusing the two. In those 10 years, I tried lots of things. Backing businesses, I did a bit of consulting, executive coaching, I mentored people, I even had a crack at forming peer groups. These were all new projects, new ideas. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. Some lasted far too many years. Others lasted only a matter of months. And if I look at those 10 years from a distance, boy does it look messy. It's unfocused and random. What it was a process of discovery. Every experience taught me something. I learned along the way what energized me, I learned what drained me, and I learned what I enjoyed. And not just that, I learned what I tolerated. I learned what I was good at. And I learned what I never wanted to do again. So I don't see those years as wasted. They were research. Let's think of them as experiments, not failures, each one moving me closer to finding the right thing. And sometimes the fastest way to discover who you are is to discover who you aren't. When I was 59, I took on yet another new challenge, and on paper this one looked absolutely perfect. Dealing with motivated, ambitious people, business leaders, I would be mentoring them, coaching them, facilitating discussions around business challenges right up my street. It sounded exactly like the sort of thing I should be doing. But the reality was very different. It turned into a full-time slog with corporate targets, reporting to others, pressure, expectations, and even micromanagement of me. And every month I told myself, just give it a little bit more time, just push through. And looking back, that's exactly what I'd been doing for years with everything else. Just one more thing, one more role, one more attempt to find myself. I think many people do this. You know something isn't quite right. You keep going because you've already invested so much time. It's called the sunk cost fallacy. Look it up. So much effort, so much of yourself has been given, and you think, maybe it'll get better next year. And maybe after this, maybe I'm expecting too much. That's exactly what I did for 2 whole years, plugging away until eventually I had enough and I quit. And the strange thing is, the moment I walked away, I felt relief, not failure, relief. Because for the first time, I admitted something to myself. I didn't want another career. I wanted a different life. Purpose is found by elimination. It's easy to look for purpose the wrong way. You ask, what should I do? But what you should be asking is, what don't I want? And that changes everything. I didn't want another office. I didn't want another commute. I didn't want to manage people. I didn't want to recruit people. And I didn't want responsibility for other people. I didn't want my life controlled by their priorities. But I did enjoy ideas and strategy and teaching, mentoring, writing, observing, and learning. And not just that, sharing what I'd learned. And once I started paying attention to that pattern, things became so much clearer. The trap after 50 is to keep looking for the next version of your old self, when you should be building a new one. The answer was hiding in plain sight. I was 63 and my latest experiment hadn't worked out again. I was in Portugal over Christmas and I found myself watching YouTube. Not as a creator, just as a viewer, for entertainment, and I was looking specifically for channels run by older people, 60-ish, and then I noticed something, and that was the eureka moment for me. There weren't many retired men. Plenty of couples, plenty of financial advisors, plenty of people telling you how to retire who had never experienced retirement in any form. Very few people talking about what retirement actually felt like were retirees. The freedom, the restlessness, the challenges with purpose, the surprises, the changes. And I thought, I'll have a go. And I spent a few months doing a bit of research, and then I launched this channel on my late father's birthday in April 2024. The first video, it got 13 views. 13! Most people would have taken that as a sign. I didn't. Because for the first time in nearly 20 years, I wasn't trying to become someone. I wasn't chasing a title. I wasn't chasing a career or a position or recognition. I was just talking about the things that interested me. I was talking about my feelings, my experience, my challenges as a 63-year-old man who had got early success, but then had a 10-year history of experiments that had not worked out. And something very strange happened. For the first time in a long time, it felt like me. Don't be afraid to outgrow your career. This is probably the biggest lesson of all. After 50, a lot of people continue to follow a map that was drawn by a much, much younger version of themselves, probably their 20s. They're still chasing things that maybe they made sense at 35, even 45, but never at 55. Trust me, at that age, you've changed. Your values, your priorities, your energy, your health. In your 50s, life changes. And sometimes the career that suited you 20 years ago is not the thing that suits you now. Now that doesn't mean that career was wrong. All it means is you outgrew it. And if there's one thing I'd say to you if you were over 50, or maybe you're approaching 50, don't be frightened to try new things. Don't be frightened to explore. Don't be frightened to change direction, and don't be frightened to be a beginner again, because that's the part most people avoid. What they want is certainty and a plan. They want to know exactly where things are leading. And what I found is that life rarely works like that, and it certainly didn't for me. When I left the recruitment industry at 44 years of age, I didn't know that YouTube was waiting 20 years later. How could I? The platform barely existed. The opportunity didn't exist. The audience didn't exist. The person who would eventually start this channel, he didn't exist either. He had to be created through experience, through experiments, through quitting, through getting things wrong, through changing his mind, through loads of pain over 10 years. And that's why I think so many people get stuck. They want the answer before they take the first step, but sometimes the answer only appears after you start walking. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. I spent 20 years trying to find my what's next. What I was really doing was trying to find a life that suited the person I had become. And those 20 years, they weren't wasted. They were how I discovered what really mattered. They were how I discovered what I really enjoyed. They were how I discovered the real me. The person I thought I was looking for, he didn't exist anymore. And that turned out to be the whole point of the journey. So here's my question for you. Have you ever reached a point in life where you realised a chapter had run its course, but you stayed on the journey? Let me know in the comments. And if this video resonated with you, watch this one next. It's the brutal truth about working after 60. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.